Imagine a mighty empire, a hidden force that once ruled vast swaths of Eastern Europe. They were traders, warriors, and controversially converts to a faith most would not expect. An empire that disappeared almost without a trace, leaving behind more questions than answers. This is the story of the Khazars, a people whose history has been shrouded in mystery. Welcome, history buffs! Today we delve into the world of the Khazars, a Turkic people who emerged in the 7th century, carving out a substantial empire that spanned modern-day southwestern Russia, Ukraine, and parts of Kazakhstan. Now, when we think of mighty empires of this era, we tend to picture Byzantium or perhaps the ancient Islamic Caliphate. The Khazars, however, are often forgotten. They are not usually front and center in history textbooks, but they played an important role in shaping the geopolitical landscape of their time. The Khazars, believed to have descended from the Western Turkic Khaganate, were initially nomadic warriors and, like many groups, were largely unknown, roaming the vast Eurasian steppes. But by the mid-7th century, they had begun to coalesce into a powerful force. The Khazar Khaganate was created. Led by a ruler or Khagan, they were not content with raids or simple migrations. They began to expand their territory, skillfully wielding military power. Their unique system involved the Khagan as a figurehead, while power was actually held by another leader, a sort of co-ruler called a bek. This dual system of power was incredibly effective. It allowed them to consolidate control over neighboring tribes and establish their presence as a major regional power. They became renowned for their horsemanship and fearsome warriors, which helped secure their power. This was not just a rise to prominence. The Khazars were creating an empire. The Khazar Khaganate was much more than just a band of nomadic warriors. At its core was a thriving society, or should we say societies. The Khazars were unusually tolerant for their time. They presided over a diverse population, Slavic tribes, Bulgars, Alans, and more. This multiculturalism was not just a coincidence, it was a deliberate policy that brought a wealth of resources and experience to the empire. Their social structure was a mix of nomadic traditions and increasingly established urban centers. They were not simply raiders. They had established bustling cities like Atil, the capital. Nor was this a homogeneous society. Different groups had their own distinct roles and positions within the empire. This dynamic and cosmopolitan society was a hallmark of the Khazar Empire. Now we come to what is perhaps the most interesting and debated aspect of Khazar history, their conversion to Judaism. Yes, you heard right. Although the Khazars likely had a mix of pagan beliefs and a large Christian and Muslim population, historical accounts suggest that Khazar elites adopted Judaism sometime between the 8th and 9th centuries. Why? Well, this is where things get really interesting. There are several theories. Some historians believe it was a pragmatic move, a way to maintain neutrality and independence between the powerful Christian Byzantine Empire to the west and the expanding Islamic Caliphate to the south. Others suggest that the conversion may have been genuine, motivated by a search for religious meaning. The primary source for this information is the Schechter letter, although this source and others are highly debated, and some have even been questioned. The details surrounding the conversion and its level of adherence are shrouded in uncertainty. It remains one of the most compelling and debated mysteries of Khazar history. What is agreed upon is that Judaism played a key role in the Khazar narrative. In addition to religion, the Khazars were masters of trade. Their strategic location along the Silk Road and other important trade routes positioned them as vital intermediaries. They controlled a network of trading posts and cities, regulating the flow of goods between East and West. They were not only transporters of goods, they also taxed those goods, accumulating wealth and influence from their trading activities. The Khazars were a vital link not only economically but culturally. They facilitated the exchange of ideas, technologies, and goods. Their influence extended far beyond their immediate borders, impacting the development of neighboring nations. They had a profound effect on the region as a whole, both politically and commercially, becoming an essential part of the world at that time. Like all great empires, the Khazar Khaganate eventually began to fall apart. By the 10th century, internal conflicts and external pressures began to take their toll. The rise of the Rus people in the north was a major factor. Rus princes began to challenge Khazar rule, leading to fierce conflicts. The Rus prince Sviatoslav dealt a major blow to Khazar power in the 960s, capturing Atil and effectively dismantling the Khazar political structure. The Khazar Empire was slowly disintegrating, and the Rus attack was the final blow. The Khazar people were scattered, their territories divided and absorbed by other groups. The once mighty Khazar Khaganate disappeared, leaving behind only historical remains and archaeological evidence. A slow demise that began the end of its unique history.